Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview, where we take a look at the stories being followed in the current edition of the North Coast Journal. I'm your host, Dave Frank, and I'm joined this week by Thad Greenson, news editor, and Jennifer Fumiko Cahill, arts and features editor at the North Coast Journal. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Dave. How you doing?
Pretty good. You know me, blue sky, sunshine, so it definitely helps the cause in a big way.
You're like a plant.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. It's better than the alternative. I was out there gardening this weekend, got some hiking in, so I feel like it's really springy, and I'm trying to run with it. So it serves me well this week anyway.
It does feel very springy out.
Hopefully you guys got to get out. I know, Jennifer, that you don't always think that's a great thing, but hopefully you got out there a little bit for your own benefit.
Enough for me, yeah.
Good
I
deal.
mowed the lawn this weekend, which I think at least my neighbors are grateful for. So something.
Progress abounds. Awesome. So let's dive in. Thad, what is going on? What's on the cover this week of North Coast Journal?
Yeah, so on the cover this week, we have our last election preview issue. Indeed. Is anybody else ready for this election to just be over and behind us?
Oh my God, just let me vote now.
You can. It's a mail-in.
So,
June
but
7th, right? Sorry, that's June 7th. It's this real soon. It's right around the corner.
Yes, it's June 7th. Get those ballots in, or if you want to cast your ballot at the polls on election day, make sure and bring that vote by mail ballot to turn in. It'll make everything a lot easier. Make sure you don't. It'll make it so you don't have to cast a provisional ballot. Right. Make sure and vote. Indeed.
So I interrupted you. Let's go for it. What do you got?
Yeah, so I was just going to say we have a shorter story about the race for an open judgeship between Ben McLaughlin and Stephen Stewart to replace the seat being vacated by Christopher Wilson, who is retiring after I think a couple decades on the bench. But the cover story this week is diving into the race for auditor controller.
My goodness.
I think many people consider kind of the highest stakes and most kind of outwardly contentious race on the ballot, not between the candidates, but between the folks supporting them. The candidates have remained very civil, which is actually kind of, I think, a focal point of the story.
Well, excellent. So there was recently a candidate forum. Is that something you covered in the article?
Yeah, so the KMUD News Forum was the most recent one, but there was also a League of Women Voters Forum a bit earlier in the month. And it struck me in watching these and kind of preparing to report on the race is that not only have the candidates by and large struck a pretty cordial tone, especially challenger Cheryl Dillingham, who is kind of running in a climate where there are lots of vitriol directed at the sitting auditor controller, and a lot, from votes of no confidence and votes of censure to just some pretty pointed public comment coming from members of the public and county employees, and recently I think 16 of 19 county department heads signing off on a letter basically saying that the sitting auditor controller, Karen Paz Dominguez, is not effective in her job. There's just lots of vitriol swirling around there, and Cheryl Dillingham is not playing that game. She has really refrained from really any pointed attacks or criticism of the auditor controller, and has actually been very complimentary in certain respects.
Although I will say that the no drama is a little shade.
Yes, we have all the candidates fill out a candidate questionnaire, which has some very real questions about their educational background, their work histories, some things like that. Ask them to weigh in on certain issues, but then it also has some kind of more fun questions. So I mean, for instance, for the auditor controller race, we asked them who their favorite fictional accountant is. We also asked them to write a haiku, kind of summarizing their candidacy. I think Cheryl Dillingham's was just Cheryl Dillingham for auditor controller, on time, no drama, which certainly there's some shade in there. And then we asked what her superpower would be and how she would use it. And she said, bringing order to chaos. Wait and see how I will use it. So there's definitely some confidence there, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just struck me in these forums that by and large, she is refraining from kind of, jumping in on any of the attacks we're hearing from other circles toward Ms. Paz Dominguez. And has actually been kind of very complimentary of some of the work Paz Dominguez has done in office and some of the changes made. And, that kind of inspired me to, when writing the story, really, go back the full 4 years and really think about, what were the issues Karen Paz Dominguez brought forward when she was just the assistant auditor controller. I think most who have been watching or paying attention for years now will remember that she, again, while in the number 2 position in that office, kind of addressed the Board of Supervisors out of nowhere during public comment at a meeting to kind of describe an office in chaos that was so understaffed and so mismanaged that it wasn't able to fulfill its basic functions, which set in motion kind of a bunch of events, including the resignation of her predecessor, a number of kind of external investigations, a civil grand jury investigation, all of which kind of found what she said to be true, that the office was in chaos, was mismanaged, was severely understaffed and not keeping up with its basic functions. And at that point, it was keeping up with its basic functions by filing the necessary documents it needed to file, I should say, with the state and other oversight agencies. But it wasn't really doing due diligence in really auditing county functions and county finances. And so, that chain of events kind of propelled her to election. And then, I think very much led us to where we are today, where the county has invested more resources, both in terms of additional staff. It's gone from 11 staff members in that office to 14, and some funds for outside consulting. But the office is still kind of mired in controversy and unable to fulfill basic functions. And now the functions it's not filling is filing necessary documents with the state that are required by state law, and doing things like dispersing property tax interest to local school districts, which is the school districts depend on those funds for operations and stuff.
So there's a ton in the article in terms of detail, and I have to say, to your credit, just because it's fairly complicated and it's been, I would argue, a little difficult for folks to follow. At least that's the feedback I've been getting from people, publicly, anecdotally. But I think you did a really good job of making concise statements of sort of undisputed facts for people to reference. So I definitely would point that to folks to read. I think you did a service to the community on that one.
I appreciate that. And it has been, I will say, a really difficult, not just the campaign, but the issues in the Auditor's Controller's Office have been really difficult to cover, because they not only, entail kind of learning about these accounting functions that I think the average person doesn't know. I certainly, as a reporter, kind of going into covering these issues, didn't kind of understand. I didn't know what a single audit was, or a financial transactions report. Or these things. But then it also gets into just really the mess that is the county's decentralized accounting system, where you have, more than a dozen, I think more than 18 departments that all do kind of their own accounting systems, and then report that to the Auditor Controller's Office, which is then responsible for auditing all those numbers and turning them into singular reports that get moved on to the state. I think that's important to remember, is that while under Ms. Paz Dominguez's kind of leadership, the office has clearly had a string of really significant problems meeting deadlines of all sorts, not just with the state mandated reports, but other things too, which we kind of go into in the story. I think there's an enormous complexity there that the average person kind of doesn't understand. And, as an example, I think, one of the functions of her office that I think most people are somewhat familiar with, at least tangentially through their own employment, is payroll and time cards. And it just kind of blows my mind that the county, again, across, 18 plus departments, still uses paper time cards. And so you have 18 different departments overseeing employees, more than 2,000 in total, filling out paper time cards that all then get funneled to the auditor controller's office to process.
In 2022, right? Like
in 2022.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
Right now, like
For the
this
record.
week, it's probably happening. Which is insane. And I've processed time cards for a department of 5, and it's a nightmare. I can't imagine doing it for 2,000 plus people. So, and I think that's something that, it is interesting to me in covering the race, is that, Cheryl Dillingham is really saying a lot of the changes that have been made under Paz Dominguez's tenure have been really positive, and has been really complimentary, but has kind of at the same time just been saying, I'll get the trains moving on time. That kind of, we've made progress, but we're clearly not there yet, as evidenced by these outstanding reports, as evidenced by the state of California suing the county and Karen Paz Dominguez individually to kind of force compliance with mandated financial reporting. But she's saying, she's not kind of dismissing Karen Paz Dominguez as somebody who has been totally ineffective or something like that.
And like I said, there's so much more in the article, but if you don't mind, hopefully you'll remember what I'm referring to. There's this question that you ask about, or I think it came up actually in the KMUD candidate forum, which was about what's more important, accuracy or timeliness. And I thought that general philosophy is pretty telling about where we are today, as sort of as an umbrella way of framing the competition here.
Yeah, I thought it was a telling. I thought it was a good question, and the answers were telling. And so, Lauren Schmidt, the news director at KMUD News, asked, kind of what's your priority? What's the most important thing, accuracy or timeliness? And Karen Paz Dominguez answered first and was unequivocal, 100% accuracy. If you don't have accuracy, what's the point of being on time? If you're filing something that's incorrect only to have to fix it 6 months or a year down the road, like what's the value in that? It has to be accurate. And Cheryl Dillingham, one might say, kind of cheated the question or skipped the question, but she said both. You just can't have one without the other. And you can file the most accurate report ever, but if it's 2 years down the road, that's going to cause really significant problems because the county needs to budget. The county needs to know how much funds it has on hand, and all these things. And kind of had a thoughtful answer, kind of in displaying the importance of both. And that's certainly been a criticism of Karen Paz Dominguez's tenure, is that she has spent time kind of just ensconced in the minutia of county finances and quibbling over, relatively insignificant invoices of, $50, $100, $100, even $1,000, which in the grand scheme of the county budget represent, just a tiny fraction of a percent. And she, some folks feel that her office gets so myopically focused on these things, it loses track of kind of the bigger picture. And I thought another quote that Cheryl Dillingham, I think, responded to the questionnaire and saying that I thought was telling was, one of her mentors told her, that the difference between an accountant and a bookkeeper is an accountant knows when to stop chasing pennies. And that just kind of the recognition that maybe everything is not going to balance perfectly all the time, but you're practicing a general oversight role, and maybe there's more important things than balancing to the penny every time.
Gotcha.
I gotta say, as Thad points out in the piece, among the million things I did not see coming in 2022, everybody being so interested in accountants, I didn't see it. I did not know.
Right.
Yeah.
I did not know. I mean, should I have paid more attention in math class? Probably. I did not know it was going to be this hot a topic out in the world.
Well, it's very much, I think I said this about the clerk, recorder, registrar race too in a story, is it's very much one of those elected offices that when things are going well, nobody knows anything about, I think I opened this week's story saying, if you can name the two, Karen Paz Dominguez's two predecessors, you probably work in county government, because it's just not an office most people pay attention to unless there are problems.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again for this, your insights and coverage, and we're in the home stretch. So in theory, hopefully, some of this animosity and contentiousness will be hopefully a thing in the past, at least for a while, until November.
Looking forward to June 8th, David.
Oh, goodness. All right, cool. Well, thanks again, Thad. How about you, Jen? What is going on the arts and features beat this week?
Well, I don't know about you, but it seems like a good time to regress. And this week I got to talk to Peanut. You might know Peanut from the Slice of Humboldt Pie business.
Oh.
Kristen Peanut Thompson and her wife, Amber Saba, run Slice of Humboldt Pie, and you may have seen them there hustling coconut cream pies and buttermilk pies. Do not sleep on the buttermilk pie. It looks like nothing, but it's amazing. And they are, doing all kinds of things also while they've been hustling pie during the pandemic, including Arcada. I know. Arcada. It's arcade plus Arcada.
Clever.
Prepare yourself to say it 5 times every time you tell someone where you got those wings. So anyway, Peanut talked to me about how they kind of made it through the pandemic with the pie business. Meanwhile, Arcada started about 2.5 weeks before lockdown.
Oh.
Yeah, that was tough timing, especially for a place that isn't really suited to takeout, right? You go there to play some vintage video games, have a couple of drinks, have some small plate foods that you probably share, all things we really could not do for so long. And they ended up keeping it closed, paying rent, using PPP loans, and using the kitchen. And this is where it's just a history of confusing names. It used to be The Other Place.
Oh, now I know where it is.
Yes. So when you'd be like, oh, where did you go? The Other Place. Oh, what's that? No, it's called I can't. Anyway.
Who's on first?
Yeah, it's too much. I'm tired. So anyway, that's where it is, right? It's a lovely little building, and they had to keep it closed the whole time. They had to just kind of skate by, but use the kitchen for making things like the savory fillings for their empanadas. And those savory fillings are also showing up on the Arcada menu, but I'll get to that in a second. So they really focused on the pie business during the pandemic, partly because, or at least this hunk of the pandemic, it's never ending. They also have, the outdoor patio, which if you haven't gone to the outdoor patio at the pie place, you absolutely should.
Oh,
Number
awesome.
one, you're sitting in the sunshine on a nice day, eating pie.
And
it's
cider.
so nice. Yeah, and the cider business is right next to it. They're together, separate businesses, but together in that location. And also you will see some of the fattest birds in Humboldt County. They are little pie crust pirates, and they are aggressive, and I respect them for that. But they started opening Arcada about a couple weeks ago, and it's pretty cool. If you are a person who used to hang out in the arcade or would like to, they have the old cabinets of video games with mostly new guts inside, because those are more easily maintained. They're, updated, etc. But the old cabinets, Centipede, which is Peanut's favorite, still has an ashtray attached to it.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, remember that? Remember lighting up on a plane? That's what I'm talking about.
Not me. For folks who don't know, there's a trackball in that game, so it's a cardio sport. It's awesome.
It's cardio, so you're smoking. No, but there is no smoking in there, but the ashtray is so inviting. And they've got little drink stands next to the games. The only new games are the pinball. They've got a Houdini, a Munsters, and a Jurassic Park, because pinball takes a beating. And so older games are a little more difficult to maintain. And unlike a lot of arcades, well, most arcades, they don't rent the games. This is all stuff they've collected and they own, because they are kind of game freaks.
Love it.
And when they travel, they look for, let's go to the pinball museum, let's go to this arcade bar, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's kind of a lovely nostalgic thing to enjoy. And they really wanted to bring back the experience of being 12 and wasting your youth in a parlor.
No.
However, it's not for kids, it's for adults. There's beer, etc. And for now, at least, they're talking about maybe doing like a family night someday down the road. But for now, it's for adults. And the menu is very much about regressive snacking. So as Peanut explained to me, imagine you're 12 and you have all the toppings and all the tater tots and fries and nachos, and you can just put anything on anything. And so you can look down their list of sauces and add-ons and add them onto their nachos and their quesadillas and everything else, including the ability to add their green chili pulled pork filling onto pretty much anything.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So look at something, it's kind of like those videos of like, is it cake? Right. Except you look at it and you go, can I cover this with pulled pork? This piece of furniture, whatever. And so it's lovely. And I looked at the menu and I saw that there were boneless wings. And I was like, boneless wings? That is some dino nuggy BS. Yes, I will absolutely have them. And I ordered them and they are delightful because they are actual wing meat that the bones have been pulled out of, as opposed to the little reconstituted IKEA chicken nugget thing.
IKEA. Whatever dino buddies have to be made of.
Yeah, whatever those are. It's like particle board inside. But these are actual, just like dark meat, the wing flat with the bones pulled out. Although if you have reached adulthood, you should have a wing eating technique down. I'm just saying, as a carnivore. Yeah. But the sauce by Amber Saba is really a really nice iteration of a classic buffalo sauce with that like tang and heat and rounded buttery taste. And it's deeply, deeply satisfying, as is their homemade dressing. Homemade ranch, as I have said before, is a completely different ballgame from bottled ranch. Yeah. It's just true. Bottled ranch is fine, but homemade ranch, homemade blue cheese, inject it into my veins. I love it so much. So it's lovely, and they're open, and they're just, it's a nice little space, and they've got a lovely selection of like on-tap beers, canned beverages, and a slushie machine.
Oh my goodness.
One of the slushies in there is a sangria, and the other slushie is just the blue slushie that gives you the blue tongue.
Old school.
Yeah, so blue slushie, wings, wear a dark shirt. That is my advice.
Or bring a bib.
I mean, let's regress. Let's do it all the way.
This actually sounds pretty awesome. I'm glad you brought this to my attention and everyone else's attention, because I think we ought to encourage arcade games and the the retro vibe that comes with that environment.
Yeah, actually, Peanut told me that one of the joys of having the arcade games is seeing younger people, younger than ourselves, learning how to drop a quarter just right.
Oh, geez.
Into the old coin slots, because all the cabinet and the coin slot, that's all the old stuff. And you know how sometimes it didn't totally catch? You had to drop it just right.
Yeah, it comes out through the no, this ain't a quarter slot.
Yes, these are the pieces of cultural knowledge that need to be passed on to younger generations.
Yeah. Well, I think hopefully people take that your guidance and your advice, or at least your recommendation. Thank you so much. We are just about out of time for this week, unfortunately, but Thad and Jen, thank you so much. This has been really cool. I appreciate all of your insights and info you shared today.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
Pleasure, David.
North Coast Journal is available on newsstands now. Pick one up, stay informed. Also available online 24/7, so you can check them out anytime. Again, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being here, and we will connect again next week. Take care till next time. Bye.